Today on Politics Unplugged, the Secretary of State is cooking up plans should President Trump try to cancel the elections this year. We speak with him. Plus, Governor Hobbs and the Republicans who control the legislature battle over budgets and tax cuts. And Trump backs off his threats to take control of Greenland. Our panel tries to make sense of it all now on Politics Unplugged. Good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. President Trump has threatened to use the Insurrection Act to try to stop the anti-ICE protests in Minneapolis and elsewhere. And there's been some concern that he may try to use that as an excuse to cancel the midterm election. Secretary of State Adrian Fontes is in charge of elections here in Arizona and joins us now to talk about this. And first of all, let's get into the plans. You say you're preparing Arizona in case the president tries to interfere, stop the elections here. What are those plans?
Well, let's be really clear. We're planning for a whole host of different contingencies, from trucks that are delivering supplies running out of fuel, to buildings not being opened on time to get the polls moving. This is just one of the many things that we deal with in election administration when we have to look at the field in front of us, look at all of the things that are rising, and then we say, okay, these are the things that we have to pay attention to. Insofar as some of these new sorts of circumstances that nobody has ever dealt with, we're working closely with the governor's office and the attorney general's office to try to figure out where we're going to maneuver to, utilizing the resources that we have. Obviously, those are still in nascent stages as far as those plans are concerned, but we're getting ready for everything, not just the fun political stuff that people talk about.
When you say everything, what does everything mean when we start talking about interfering with elections or trying to block the elections? What are you preparing for with that?
Well, here's the thing. This isn't new. It's just new from this space, right? We've never had a president, even jokingly, say that they wish the election wouldn't go forward or maybe it shouldn't go forward. So that's new. But we have many times, and we've seen it all over the country, occasionally somebody will say, hey, if your social security number ends in an odd number, you vote on Wednesday, not on Tuesday. Things of this nature. So there's always a little thing that we have to pay attention to. These are the misinformation and disinformation that we've heard in the past. So we're planning for those contingencies as well as some of these new possible threats to a smooth election that we've seen. So again, this is just one part of a lot of the preparations that we're taking.
Now, the latest comments from Trump, I believe, was attributed to a Reuters report where he said, he questioned why there should be midterm elections. Yep. And again, his office has said he was just joking.
Sure.
So when you come out and start talking about this kind of stuff, are you unnecessarily kind of stoking up people's fears and anxiety when you do that? Because there's no proof that he has, laid out any kind of plans to try to do this.
Yeah, let's be really, really clear. The only people that say he was joking was not the president. He hasn't said he was joking. So when he is very clear and when he is very concise in saying I was joking about canceling elections, when the president says I want 2026 to go forward as normal, then we're going to be fine. But until all we're hearing it from is his subordinates and the people that are talking for him. I'd like the president, as the leader of the United States of America, to come out and say, the 2026 elections and the midterms are going to go forward. We're going to let the states do their jobs as the Constitution requires, and that'll be that.
So why is this something that you're taking serious as opposed to just Adrian Fontes making a straw man argument? Because when you start looking at the logistics, let's say this was to really happen. I mean, the logistics of trying to cancel an election or whatnot would seem almost impossible.
Well, we're taking it seriously, as I indicated earlier, because we have to take all of these things seriously. I mean, look, what happens if the night before an election somebody goes and steals 3 of the delivery trucks in one of our small counties? They're going to be kind of screwed. So we got to be ready for all of the contingencies that play into preparing for elections. We are perennial preparers. We're kind of like the Boy Scouts, right? Be prepared. We got to have backup paper in case we run out of paper or ink. We've seen these little bits and pieces, and that takes a lot of preparation. I mean, we've even got extra electrical cords, extra equipment here and there staged in some of the bigger counties. This is just one of those other things that we're preparing for now. So are we making a big deal about it? Only because people are asking. We're preparing for all of the contingencies. This just happens to be one corner of that entire puzzle.
And do you really think that this is something that could likely happen?
It's as likely as just about anything else. And some of the drills we run through are, a fire breaks out here. As a matter of fact, I recall when I was county recorder, we had a polling place that actually caught fire the night before the election, and we had to move everything across the street from a church to a school.
That's different than a president trying to stop an
election.
election.
But here's the thing. The only difference is the nature of the circumstance that we have to deal with, not the fact that we've got something to plan for and something to deal with. So I get that it's kind of a lot of political gamesmanship and people want to say you're stoking fears. The reality is this. I have a job to help Arizona prepare for the election, regardless of what the possible problem might be. I'm going to do that job no matter what those possible problems are.
All right, let's talk about some other things going on with your office. It is budget time. The legislative session has kicked in. And now it's a lot of agencies like yours talking about money. You're saying that elections are underfunded in Arizona, and you're wanting to go out and get private grants to do that. Now, you're pushing for some legislation. What would that legislation do?
Well, the Voters First Act does a whole bunch of things. It returns the permanent early vote list so people don't just get kicked off with a promise of always getting a ballot like Arizona had promised voters in the past. It makes the text message and email notifications mandatory for all of the voters, and it puts funding behind it as well. As far as general funding is concerned, we have at least $1 million a year for security, but we don't have to wait for the budget process. We can act now. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee meets next week, and what they're going to be looking at is a pot of money that was left over from the CD7 special election. We're hoping we can use that money to stave off some of the security concerns that we had. Remember last summer, we had that incident with the Iranian hack of our candidate portal. We already have a way for the legislature to help us secure 2026 now. And we need that money now so that we can implement things. You can't just buy it and put it into place overnight. So there's a lot of ways the legislature can move forward with their promise to help us secure elections, particularly using some of that money from JLBC that's available for us right now, and it will have zero impact on the budget because it was just a savings from that other election.
Well, and a lot of people have, I believe you have too, have questioned like the GOP-led legislature not giving you enough money to fund these elections, but there's a governor there. She used to have your job. I mean, where is she in all this? Is she culpable in all this? Has she agreed to help you out and get more funding to run the elections the way you see fit?
Look, the point of this whole exercise is that we hear a whole bunch of people saying a whole bunch of stuff. We're not seeing the results of that legislative and budgeting process. There's a lot of people who are responsible for this, so that gets spread out. But this isn't a did you or didn't you. This is the Secretary's office needs money to run elections. We need money to support the counties in their efforts to run elections. This isn't about A versus B, legislature versus governor, Democrats versus Republicans. That's not important to me. What's important to me is the voters and delivering the services that you as Arizona voters deserve. And everybody who's involved in the process can do better for us. Particularly the folks who are actually writing the bill, and that's the legislature.
And I get that you're focused on the voters, but realistically, it is about A versus B, Democrats, Republicans, the governor, all that kind of stuff for you to get that money. Has the governor done enough to try to get you the money that you say you need to run these elections?
Well, again, the governor is part of the whole team in this budget process. We are part of that team in the budget process. You could ask me if I've done enough as well out of my office. You could ask advocacy groups because they are part of the voice of the people out there. So I think the entire process has failed the Department of State, and that entire process needs to reprioritize the security, accountability, and transparency of our elections and properly fund Arizona's elections.
All right, we're out of time now. Adrian Fontes, Secretary of State, thanks for stopping by here today. And I'm bringing in our panel to talk about all of this week's major headlines, including President Trump's alleged deal on Greenland. That's next, right here on Politics Unplugged. This week, tensions thawed over Greenland. State lawmakers are on track to shatter a record, and state Republicans want to label Muslim groups as terrorists. This is your political roundup. President Donald Trump backed off his threat of force to grab control of Greenland after announcing he cut a deal. But 24 hours later, the world still waited on the details. Former special prosecutor Jack Smith defended his decision to prosecute Donald Trump, accusing the president of causing the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Following his testimony on Capitol Hill, Trump called for Smith to be prosecuted. State lawmakers are on pace to smash a record for the most number of bills filed in a single year, which raises the question, are they trying to fix Arizona or their own political fortunes in a political year? Republicans at the state capitol moved ahead with a pair of bills asking Congress to label a couple of Muslim advocacy groups as terrorist organizations. And finally, state GOP lawmakers advanced a ballot measure that asks voters to limit how they vote. The proposal would add new restrictions on early mail-in voting. And that is your political roundup for the week. And here to talk about all of that is Democratic consultant Stacy Pearson and Republican Marcus Dell'Artino. Thank you both for being here. Let's start with you, Marcus. The Greenland drama. It seems that Trump has backed off of the threat of force. He says he has a deal. We'll get into that in a second. We're still waiting on the details of that deal. But how has this played out? Has this helped or hurt his presidency? What's your take?
Well, the base loves it. What's interesting about this is that if you rewound a couple days, Senator Kennedy sort of signaled that something like this was coming. So I wasn't surprised when a deal was reached and that we weren't invading. Because this is sort of his modus operandi, right? Threaten, threaten, threaten until you get your opponent to give you something out of the deal. And I think what we're probably looking at is more mineral rights or something related or defensively about a base in Greenland, something sort of to that effect. Mm-hmm. But the base loves it. Republicans love it. Of course, Democrats hate it. So the question at the end of the day is where are the independents? And I think the independents are a little startled by this and a little concerned about our relationships with other NATO countries.
Yeah, because I would think that independents, people like that, are like growing up over the years, never thought U.S. should be thinking about invading Greenland, but here we are. What are your thoughts on this? Because, again, we're still waiting on the details of whatever he says he had negotiated. And a lot of speculation is it's not going to be much different than the agreement the United States already has with Denmark and Greenland. The one that was signed during the Eisenhower administration in 1951.
Well, what we see playing out, and we're seeing it in polling already from some of the big national groups, is two populations that are reliably base voters for Republicans are getting increasingly concerned and angry about erratic behavior, and that's cops and it's military veterans. Mm-hmm. And though military veterans are not amused by this, and particularly folks whose kids are serving, they're not amused by us taunting our allies and aligning with our enemies.
Mm-hmm. And do you see that having any further political repercussions with those types of groups? I mean, it seems to me everything's kind of so polarized right now.
I know you're not going to be shocked at my response here, but that's not my concern. My concern is over what I've said about 1 billion times on the show is the golden goose for the Republican Party is women. And what we're seeing, to Stacy's point on polling, is that women are getting a little uncomfortable with some of the things we're seeing out of Minneapolis, with some of this stuff on the international stage. And so midterms are coming up. I think I've said that like every show for the last 17 shows. It's going to be interesting where that demographic goes.
Okay, let's shift over. Let's talk a little bit about former federal prosecutor Jack Smith. He testified in Congress this week and again defended his decision to try to prosecute President Trump for what he said is he stoking January 6th, saying that he was the cause of January 6th. Right. Is this just political theater, or does this mean anything? Because at this point, wherever you stand is where you sit on this issue. I mean, we see the video. We know there was violence there on that day. However, a lot of people, supporters of Trump and the MAGA movement, describe it very differently. Did this move the needle for anybody at all?
Well, I know I'm a survey of one, but my husband's a cop. I've been married to the guy for 27 years. I have more Republicans in my orbit, including Marcus, than I should. And I'm telling you, the folks that were tuned in to Fox News watching that hearing had never contemplated the cops being blamed for the mob invading the Capitol. And I, yesterday, this last week, felt the ground shift. And we're talking red hat wearers, tinfoil hat wearers, and I've criticized them personally. So, but we're talking tinfoil hat wearers, and those guys were frustrated by the tone from the committee.
Okay, and during his testimony, it was interesting that Smith said that he probably thinks that he was going to be end up being prosecuted by the Trump administration, and right on schedule. As soon as he finished testifying, just shortly after that, the president took his social media account and said that he thought Jack Smith should be prosecuted. Your thoughts on that?
I wasn't surprised one bit. And if anybody claims they were surprised, I was shocked. My favorite this week, admittedly, was the J.P. Morgan Chase boss who spoke out and then immediately got sued for $5 billion with a B. I was like, can I get a 1/2 of 1% of that, maybe? So, look, I'm not shocked. He knew it was coming. Everybody else knew it was coming. And, as he said, he's going to have to put up with the consequences of his decision. He said, I'm not scared. I'm not going to back down. Well, you knew what you were walking into.
Yeah, and this is another case. You think Democrats have been saying that this is another case of the president trying to quell free speech. You think that's what's going on here?
Absolutely. Free speech, free media. I mean, we're really talking about a First Amendment attack.
All right, we're going to have to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, lawmakers are on pace to file a record number of bills this session. So are they really trying to help the state make it a better place? When Politics Unplugged continues. And to get more in-depth on the issues, check out the Politics Unplugged podcast. This week, I'm joined by Arizona Republic reporter Stacy, and we're busting out the old magic 8-ball. The Politics Unplugged podcast drops every Sunday evening wherever you get your podcasts. And let's keep the panel here. Thanks for sticking around.
Did we have a choice?
No, you did not.
No.
So I rescinded my thank you. Let's talk a little bit about state politics. Record number of bills. It's just great. I've never seen so many. We are on pace to just smash these records. Stacy, are they interested in, they've filed over 1,300 bills, more are expected to come. Are they trying to make a better place, is Arizona a better place, or are they trying to build a case for their own political campaigns?
The latter. It's political theater. I mean, and at this point, I can say something crazy, cut the clip of me being crazy, send it to my fan base, and I've created news myself. I mean, we're in this echo chamber where every weird thing gets coverage of its own, and so we're seeing the strangest of the strange.
And do you agree with that? I mean, because you see a lot of this stuff. These bills are filed; they're probably going nowhere. But lawmakers still raising money off of this, because you'll get the fundraising emails like, "Look at this bill I have filed. Support my campaign."
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. Political theater is everywhere, so don't be surprised it shows up at the Capitol, for God's sake. Fundraising's part of it. Simple appeasement's part of it. I go to whatever club or group for my political party, and I can tell them I did this bill to do the right thing. And to your point, there is a huge number of these bills that is going to die. And there is knowledge that people know they're going to die, but they still do it anyway. And I would just remind people that there's a cost to running a bill. There is a lawyer who has to draft that bill. If you believe that time is money, well, you're spending a lot of time on trying to get some of these bills through. Listen, I heard one last night, and I'm not going to tell you, but some of this is getting outlandish. These problems can be fixed with a phone call or a letter, but certainly not a state law.
A former legislator told me a couple of years ago he feels that the people in the legislature now have forgotten that the last thing you want to do as a lawmaker is file legislation. This was an old school Republican lawmaker. He said a lot of problems you try to deal with without filing legislation, but here we are. And if last year's any guide, only 15% of these bills are going to make law, that would be about 200 bills. I mean, does the state need 200 new laws?
No. Absolutely not. We can't even get restrictive abortion laws that are now out of compliance with the state constitution off the books. We certainly don't need another couple hundred bills on the books.
Okay. The other thing I would just say to Stacy's point is that there's a number of these bills that have been written that don't take into account the ramifications because they haven't talked to the groups that it affects. So there are a ton of bills that I look at on a daily basis that move timelines and have to do with the federal government just as well as the state government that just mixes it all up with zero consideration.
One of the other things I've heard from a few other lawmakers too that makes it probably easier for them to write bills is the help of AI. Because writing a bill can be a comprehensive process.
It should be.
But AI can write something and you just go through and maybe edit it and whatnot. It makes the process a little bit easier.
I'll put Ledge Council up against AI any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There you go. Let's talk a little bit about the ongoing budget fight, tax fight that's going on. Governor wants her tax plan. Republicans want their tax plan. Meanwhile, taxpayers in Arizona are left in limbo like, what are we doing here? Because are you going to conform with the new federal tax code or not? We want to know before we start filing our taxes. And oh, by the way, we're filing our taxes.
Well, you can't cut $1 billion out of the state budget without considering simultaneously your spending. I mean, we do not have the luxury of the federal government with being able to run a deficit. We have to have a balanced budget. So I'm with the governor in that you cannot look at these two things independently. What she did was cut taxes for the middle class in a way that still fits in a balanced budget. We go beyond that, we have to consider spending at the same time.
Yeah, and the governor wants what $240 million tax cut this year. Republicans have a $1.6 billion.
No, hold on.
Over 3 years. Over 3 years.
Thank you.
I was going to say,
let's do apples to apples.
Let me finish, sir. So over
No, I like Dennis's math. I mean, like, come on.
Over 3 years, how's this going to play out?
So essentially, in 1 year, you've got a difference of $240 million. So okay, but those targeted, Democrats will say that these are handouts for the rich, and that's not actually the case. The Republicans doubled down on tax cuts for the middle class and lower class. What we're really truly arguing over is whether you can spend an additional $240 per year for the next 3 years. How it plays out, I will tell you, I have a sneaking suspicion this has a lot to do with Prop 123 reauthorization.
And that is a funding mechanism for K through 12 education.
I think that the governor probably wants to get something for conformity. I think that that's going to play part of it, and the other part, of course, is the budget. She's going to want something in the budget.
Yeah, and the big question, too, I know people watching this show are wondering, they're going to get this done soon so they know where they're at for filing their taxes for this year.
Oh, I think this is going to be like we see on the federal stage with the shutdowns. I mean, I think this is going to go right to the line. And I think this is, to Marcus's point, this is a extraordinarily valuable negotiating chit for the ninth floor, and it's really up to the Republicans to come to the table with her.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense because the budget is usually negotiated last. So if you negotiated it right now, the legislature may be giving up some leverage as they're trying to pass their bills. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I think that would be taken into consideration in the greater. I mean, that's what a negotiation is, right? Everybody's got to come out miserable, frankly.
You're so cheery,
with PTSD.
I mean, listen, in a true negotiation of bipartisan or in a divided government, nobody's completely happy, but they're happy enough, and that's sort of, I think, the scenario that will play out.
Real quick, less than 30 seconds. Then I asked Stacy, do you think they'll be able to wrap this up by the end of the month? This tax fight.
I'm hopeful, but not optimistic, I guess is what I would say.
The end of this month?
Yeah, at the end of a month, right?
End of a month.
All right, thanks a lot. But that is all the time we have. Be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged. Good night.